here. We'll give people a minute or two. But please drop in the chat. We really like to have an idea of kind of who's in the room. So just let's start with just let us know where you're tuning in from. Again, we're coming to you from Charlotte, North Carolina. And then second, question of the day here is, are you planning to celebrate Valentine's Day this weekend or not? And with that, I'm gonna introduce the rest of the team here. So Jana, why don't you go ahead and go first, and then we'll pass to Eddie and Dylan.
I like it. So hello, yeah, I'm Jana. I see a lot of familiar names here in the kind of attendee list. So I'm excited to, yeah, for everyone to get to learn a little bit more. I have three separate children's birthday parties on Valentine's Day, so that is my weekend. I am in that stage, so that will be how I spend my weekend, my Valentine's Day. I'm
Hey,
excited though;
my
it'll be
name
fun.
is no. Whoa, all
Yeah.
right. I'm coming in hot. No, so my name is Eddie. I am the senior marketing strategist here at Spotlight Marketing and Branding. If you ever want to have a call, like I know Greta just popped in, she's spoken to me, and we've had a lot of conversations, some of the people in there as well. I'm one of the two people you would talk to if you ever want to talk strategy about marketing and where you want to kind of how to grow your firm. And my daughter's birthday is on Valentine's Day, so there's no Valentine's Day.
Fair enough. Fair
It's a good
enough.
one.
Well, Jana, Eddie, thank you guys both for joining us, and also, so Dylan, appreciate you joining us again. For those that don't know, Dylan is our head of account strategy. So he, and also our former director of operations. So he is really somebody who thoroughly understands kind of how things work in the background here at Spotlight Marketing and Branding, how we actually produce the work that gets results for our clients. So excited to have him here. So Dylan, introduce yourself so everybody knows kind of who they're talking to here.
Yeah, thank you, Danny. Yeah, I am Director of Client Services is my official title here. As Danny mentioned, I've kind of done it all for us. I started as a writer on our operations department. Karen with KW Law, you probably remember me because I was your guys' writer when you first joined here at Spotlight. So good to see you joining, but eventually kind of worked my way over to our accounts department, which is where we manage our relationship with our clients and just kind of make sure that we're doing the most we can to get the best marketing results and satisfaction for our clients.
Love it. And we got a great group here: Dallas, Jackson Hole, Riverside, St. Louis, Phoenix, New Jersey. Just really glad you guys are here. Dylan and I are both pretty passionate about marketing and obviously ChatGPT and AI search in general has really changed the game. So really happy to see so many of you here kind of signed up for this webinar and so many of you here. So we're gonna jump into it, and before we do, as always, we really want to make this as interactive and as frankly as helpful for you as possible. So please do feel free to drop a question in the chat as we're going. We will do our best to kind of address them as we go. If it's one of those things where it's like, hey, we're going to answer that on the next slide, I may share that. And we will also make plenty of time for Q&A at the end. So everybody here, does this sound good? Give me a thumbs up or just press the number 1 in the comments. Just want to know if you're all here, all fired up to learn about ChatGPT today. With that, to give you guys kind of an overview of where we're going, kind of here's the agenda. We're going to start by talking about just what this ChatGPT opportunity even looks like for law firms. I think most of you at this point recognize it, know this is a big deal. That's why you're here. We're still going to share a little bit of context. We are going to get into specifically how potential clients are actually using ChatGPT today to find a lawyer. We're going to talk specifically about how ChatGPT is making its recommendations. And then maybe the most exciting part of this, especially for those of you that have been following along, ChatGPT actually launched paid ads on Monday, 4 days ago. Ads went live on ChatGPT. Let me know in the comments, were you aware that ChatGPT is now running paid ads? And maybe even more importantly, has anybody actually seen a paid advertisement on ChatGPT yet? I use it like 20 times a day. I still haven't seen an ad. Dylan, have you seen an ad yet?
I have not, no.
I
Probably
I
because
am
I'm
like
like seeking a lot of informational stuff, and I know a lot of the early stuff is going to be tied to like more like corporate product stuff. So that's probably why I haven't seen anything pop up.
Karen, the idea that it's so exhausting, totally get it. completely get it. As I mean, listen, for folks like us in the marketing world, like our world has changed so much in the last year. My mindset is like honestly, like it's here whether we like it or not. And so really the question is how can we use it to our advantage? And kudos to you for being here. I know you get that. Otherwise you wouldn't even be on this webinar. But that's kind of like, listen, like we're not sitting here saying ChatGPT is a great thing for the world. AI search is a great thing for the world. We're saying it's happening, and we're doing our best to help law firms turn it to their advantage. So we will share what we know about ChatGPT ads so far and what we expect to see unfolding over the next few months. One of the questions we always get is like, okay, well, what's the difference between GEO or AI search, right? GEO stands for generative engine optimization. What's the difference between optimizing for AI search platforms versus traditional Google search engine optimization? So we will touch on that. And of course, we will leave you with a practical roadmap that you can use to start increasing the visibility of your law firm on ChatGPT. Question for those of you in the room, are you getting leads? Are you getting clients from ChatGPT? I would love to hear, do you know in the last couple of months, have you gotten a phone call or a web inquiry that came from ChatGPT? Gary says yes. Peter says two. I know there's some others in this in the room. I recognize some names. I know several of you are actually getting leads and actually getting clients from ChatGPT. We have people finding our agency through ChatGPT. So why this matters is it's not philosophical and this isn't future oriented predictions. This is stuff happening like right now, today. Yes, we think it's going to accelerate, but it is happening. The opportunity is real. So I'm glad you're all here. All right, so let's start at the beginning. I really do believe when all is said and done, when people look at the timeline of digital marketing, I mean, it started with the invention of the internet, right? And Google and the emergence of like search engines in the 90s really changed digital advertising and law firm marketing in general. It changed it like philosophically at its core. I think that the AI revolution and specifically AI search is going to go down as every bit as significant as the invention of the internet. So like without overplaying it, like we really are at the starting line of some pretty fundamental changes to the way consumer behavior works, to the way businesses market themselves. And what that means is, while it is overwhelming at times, and it's frustrating at times because sometimes you feel like you are having to change course. You spent 15 years marketing yourself one way, and all of a sudden now you have to do something totally different. The reality is we have a huge opportunity here, and everybody's kind of at the beginning. So Dylan, any thoughts on that before we just kind of dive in here?
Yeah, it's one of those things where we're still seeing kind of even other marketing agencies. We're part of marketing groups where we communicate with other marketing agencies, and we're still seeing some of those agencies talk about how they're not doing this yet. They're avoiding it. And I think there's kind of an interesting thought experiment on this. If anyone wants to take a guess in the chat, feel free. But I'd be curious to hear when people think ChatGPT first became available. Because as much as we are at the beginning of this, we already have so much data that shows us this is a huge opportunity and people are benefiting from it. I know a few of you said that you have gotten clients from this, but ChatGPT in its current form has been publicly accessible since November 2022. So we're coming up on, we're at what, 3.5 years, going to be 4 years later this year. So like some people are saying it's too early to worry about this. It's too early to invest in GEO. And it's like, it's been 4 years. I mean, that's a short time in human history, sure, but that's a huge time frame for us to gather data and just see this stuff in action.
Yeah, exactly. And we're gonna talk a little bit about that, and so just to give you guys an idea of the scale here. So ChatGPT has crossed the 2 billion daily users threshold. And they've been, if you've been on these webinars over the last couple of weeks, they hit that milestone a couple of months ago. Um, and here's the crazy thing, right? 2 billion sounds like a lot, but let's put it in context. It took Google 10 years to get to 2 billion daily users, and it took ChatGPT just over 2 years. So ChatGPT is growing 5 times faster than Google, right? Which when people look at a use case or a case study of the fastest growing companies of all time, Google is pretty frequently mentioned, right? And ChatGPT is happening, 5 times faster. We're also seeing, and some of you guys may have seen, there's data that showed, last year was the first year in I don't know how long, maybe ever, that Google organic search, like as a whole, actually declined. Like there were less users of Google search last year than there were the year before. That has not happened in recent memory. I doubt it's ever happened. Conservatively, about 10% of the traffic that used to be traditional organic search traffic is now going through AI platforms like ChatGPT, Grok, Gemini, Perplexity, right? This is happening. It's happening in really significant numbers. At the same time, I think Dylan, you and I are probably on the same page. We don't want to overhype this. Like, I'm not trying to overhype this. Google still matters. Google still directs a lot more clients to law firms than ChatGPT does today, but those numbers are changing fast.
For sure, yeah. The way people consume information, excuse me, has changed so much. And Karen, I know you mentioned it. We feel, similarly, like not an endorsement of it, but people are typically going to ChatGPT or other AI models to seek information. It was mentioned a couple years ago now. ChatGPT passed Wikipedia for daily visitors, and obviously, like I'm not saying Wikipedia is the number one source of information, but a lot of people go there to look at the celebrity information, check in on just various little bites of information in there. But people were abandoning that and using AI models and ChatGPT to seek that information out. So whether or not that's the best way for people to be consuming information is another conversation, but people are doing it.
Yep.
And so obviously a huge opportunity there to be involved in that change.
And so the point we want to make here before we get into the nuts and bolts of this is as frustrating as this may be, as overwhelming as it may feel, as much as AI is threatening to maybe even the very business model of plenty of law firms and in businesses all over the economy, right? As much as all of that is true, there is also opportunity. And our goal today is to help you understand that opportunity and most importantly, take action on it. I think about the businesses that leaned into Google search optimization back in the early 2000s before anybody else was doing it. And, literally fortunes were made. So there's opportunity here. So let's kind of dive into it. So there's really two fundamental ways that people use ChatGPT, and I'm using ChatGPT a lot here, but understand, Grok, Perplexity, Gemini, kind of the same conversation, right? There's kind of two fundamental ways people use it as it relates to legal, right? The first is asking a question, okay? To give an example, how do I get started with an estate plan in North Carolina, right? Very common question people ask to ChatGPT, right? And then ChatGPT spits out an answer, right? Beautifully formatted, 6 bullet points. And then at the bottom, it says, if you want, I can also give a list of reputable estate planning attorneys in North Carolina, broken down by region. Do you want me to do that? If you say yes, you're going to get a list of law firms, and you better believe at least a percentage of users are going to call one or multiple of those law firms. So use case number one is asking questions, right? It's really great if your firm is cited, but really what's more exciting is use case number two, which is actually asking for recommendations. I will be honest, I have not seen direct data on this, but I've seen estimates that like less than 10% of ChatGPT traffic is actually asking for a recommendation to a service provider. So I don't want to sit here and tell you that this is how people are using ChatGPT all day long, but I will tell you they're absolutely using it this way. And we have clients all over the country that are getting traffic from ChatGPT and are getting leads and getting clients from ChatGPT. So this is absolutely happening. Here's an example of what that looks like. I own a business in Sacramento and need help with estate planning. Can you recommend an estate planning law firm in Sacramento? And what happens? ChatGPT gives us a list of recommendations. Obviously, you may have guessed the reason I'm using this example is because the first recommendation, the law office of Tyler Q. Dahl, is one of our clients. And Dylan, actually, I believe you did some direct work on this account. So I'll actually let you kind of share a little bit of the story of kind of what led to Tyler being recommended here.
Yeah, Tyler was a longtime client of mine as a writer, and then in a couple other roles on his team. And his whole goal was very specific. And in all the information you see in this search, I know it's a little small, but if you can see, it talks specifically about what he's doing, and all of that was intentional. All of that was us saying, hey, he doesn't just want to be a one-off law firm that a business owner comes and says, hey, I need help with my estate plan, I need help with my succession plan, whatever it may be. He was like, I want to be the whole ordeal for them. I want them to come to us and us to be more of a partner than just a lawyer that's on the outside kind of thing. So we spent a lot of time just really leaning into that language and leaning into, hey, business owners can have integrated legal plans that integrate their own personal needs on the estate planning side, but also the needs of their business and the needs to protect those business interests. And it's worked very well. We've had a lot of success with him, and he's grown significantly since this, and has been able to kind of manipulate that for sure.
I love it. And the key point that I want to make sure you guys heard from what Dylan just shared is he started by getting crystal clear about who he wanted to attract, right? And that's the cool thing. If you read the search phrase here, the search phrase is I own a business in Sacramento and I need help with estate planning. And Tyler and our team led by Dylan helped to make this happen. We're really clear that those were his avatar clients, not anybody who needs a will or a trust or an estate plan. He really wants to work with business owners. This is what's cool about ChatGPT, guys. You can get really specific about the types of clients you want to attract, and we'll talk about how to create a content strategy to communicate that to ChatGPT so it in turn makes appropriate recommendations. Because here's the cool thing. I'm going to share another example. So same region, right? But look at the question we asked here. I need a low-cost estate planning firm in Sacramento. Who would you recommend? Understand, guys, this is not the client that Tyler wants to attract. He is not looking for low cost, like price sensitive estate planning clients. He is looking for business owners who are willing to make the investment. Those are the recommendations he was getting. In this case, ChatGPT spits out a completely different list of recommendations, including LegalZoom, including the Sacramento County Bar Association, like lawyer referral service, right? So ChatGPT, in a way that Google does not do hardly at all, can really direct the right types of clients, the right types of cases to your firm. This is a huge deal. We talk in marketing all the time about how marketing really has two jobs. Most people think it has one job. It actually has two jobs. Everybody knows that the job of marketing is to attract the right types of clients. What a lot of people don't think about is that the other job is to keep everybody else away, right? We're building a screen to let the right clients in and hopefully keep everybody else away because they're not a good fit. They don't close at a high enough rate. It gums up your intake system. They turn into not great clients, right? Good marketing attracts the right clients. ChatGPT can help you do this. I'm going to share one other example. We have a client in Oakville, Canada. The search phrase here is I'm thinking about getting divorced. I own a business, have a pretty high net worth. I'd like to work with an attorney who specializes in high net worth divorce. In this case, ChatGPT spits out one answer. It is our client, Anna Marie Musson, and it gives a kind of a glowing recommendation. It doesn't even recommend anybody else. But then you ask the same question. I'm in Oakville, Canada, need to find a divorce attorney. I'm looking for someone who is cheap. Can you recommend a couple options? And it spits out a different list of options. I'm harping on this point because I want you to understand how exciting this is for any of you who really are picky about the types of clients you work with. In fact, I'd actually just like to ask that question. So those of you that are here with us, presumably most of you own law firms, I would love to hear just as a general, temperature check. Are you selective about the types of clients that you work with, or are you more of a high volume, you'll kind of work with anybody? So if you don't mind, let me know in the chat, like, are you picky? Do you have a very detailed, specific client avatar, or are you really more open to anybody who calls you and has a pulse, right? And listen, I know I kind of framed it as like there's only one right answer. There's nothing wrong with running a higher volume, lower margin practice, and we have clients who go that route, and that's fine. And there's value in ChatGPT for that use case too. But where I think it really shines is for those of you who are selective about the types of clients you work with, because you can train ChatGPT to send those people to you and nobody else. And Peter, injured workers with injuries on the job, like in my book, that's pretty specific. And PI can absolutely build a campaign using ChatGPT for PI firms too. Totally get it. Most of you chiming in, you're pretty selective. That makes a lot of sense, right? All right. So the key takeaway so far that I hope you grasped is, listen, if you get nothing else from this, make sure that your website content is specific about who your ideal clients are, right? Your website content should identify and speak to your ideal clients. I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of you that have all said you're very selective and you have a specific avatar. So the question is, does your website communicate that? If I jumped on your website, Deborah or Adam or Laura, or Rebecca or Sarah, would I be able to tell within 30 seconds who you work with, who your firm is built for? That's a great sort of homework question. If not, you got a lot of opportunity to make it better. Okay.
Yeah, and I'll add even like a bit of a additional layer to that is ChatGPT and other language models respond really well to what they call exclusion signals, which is essentially you telling it who you don't work with. So as much as it's important to make sure you tell them who you do speak with, it's also helpful to be specific, especially if you often get phone calls, like say you represent, Peter, you mentioned it has to be an injured worker with an injury on the job, and someone was cooking, spaghetti at home and burned their hand kind of thing. If you're getting those kind of calls, I know that's an awful example, but you're getting those calls of not a great fit. Take a look at your content, take a look at your website and see, am I saying specific enough that we only work with workers? And am I saying somewhere on there that we do not work with, people that don't have a work-related injury? I'm not saying you have to pack that in there. I'm not saying that that's something that should be present 30 seconds, in the first flash on your above the fold on your website, but just somewhere a couple times on your website, incorporate some exclusion language, because it responds really, really well to that. It probably even responds to that better than inclusive language, which I can get more into a little bit. But just that inclusive language can sometimes be a little more vague. It's like, oh, we work with people that have workplace injuries, and the way that it interprets that might not be as well as, hey, you need to have a workplace injury. We will not work with you if you don't, kind of thing.
Yeah. No, love it. Love it. Awesome. So takeaway number one, when we're done here, right? Spend a couple minutes, jump on your website and just ask yourself, is it clear, who I work with, and am I speaking to my ideal clients, or am I casting too wide of a net? All right. So let's get into the weeds just a little bit of how this works before we talk about how to influence the recommendations that ChatGPT makes. So at its simplest, LLMs, ChatGPT is an LLM, so is Grok, so is Perplexity. At their simplest, they are just next word predictors, right? You ask a question and it builds its answer one word at a time. For example, we're going to play a little game. Everybody, please fill in the blank. Whatever comes to mind first. The dog runs fast, 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 away, outside, quickly. Yeah, right? So as we answer these questions, we are all playing next word predictor, right? We are all doing this. This is how ChatGPT functions, all right? The soup is hot, gross, righteous, delicious, hot. Great. Okay. The book was long, good, boring, long, long, too long. Love it. Right. This at a fundamental level is what ChatGPT is doing. And if you watch when you ask a question, you can literally see it building out its answer, quickly, but it's still doing it like word by word by word. Okay. So you don't have to answer this one, but same idea, right? The best family law firm in Miami is blank, right? How ChatGPT decides to answer that question is worth millions and millions of dollars. Is this making sense to everybody? I hope that this example kind of helps you understand, like there's not a person in there, right? They're not thinking this through at a high level. They are predicting one word at a time, right? And they're very good at it. And you could actually argue that the way the human brain functions is kind of a next word predictor. But the point is, this isn't mysterious. This is ChatGPT has a process of choosing what words to use when answering a question. So how does it answer those questions? Two basic sources. One, there's a training data set, which is loaded into ChatGPT every couple of months. And we'll talk about what that looks like, but it's data that's online data, it's offline data, it's websites, it's textbooks, it's all sorts of things. But then it also has the ability to search the live web in order to formulate its answers, right? So at its simplest, ChatGPT is just taking all the information that has been loaded into it and answering questions one word at a time as best as it can. By the way, that is why sometimes ChatGPT, especially in the earlier days, was known to hallucinate. Probably a lot of you have heard stories about lawyers getting in serious trouble because ChatGPT made up case law. That's because it was trying to just predict the next best word, and it did it wrong and it ended up making things up, right? You also need to understand randomness is built in. That's why if I ask ChatGPT the same question 3 days in a row, I'll probably get a slightly different answer, maybe a dramatically different answer. Every one of us on this call, if we ask ChatGPT the same question, we're going to get some variety in our answers. They do it on purpose. I think it's probably because it makes for a more interesting user experience, but understand that randomness is built in. Dylan, do you have anything you want to add to this before we get into the nuts and bolts?
Yeah, I think this is kind of one of those things where, as much as ChatGPT and the AI revolution and all that can feel a little overwhelming, it's also a good reminder that like we are the masters of this. The data set is based on human content, human art, all of that. And the information on your website, the information that ChatGPT is formulating its answers based off is information you are giving it. So you're a little bit more in control of this than I think people realize. And obviously, like if you're, using ChatGPT, ChatGPT is working for you. The easiest way to get it to predict the right word that you want it to say next is to stack the deck, essentially. You want it to pull that card that has your name on it the next time that it's predicting that next word. So that's why it does kind of boil down to stacking the deck and making sure that wherever you're producing content, wherever you're publishing information, you're conscious of this now, if you want to influence the kind of the next word it's going to say.
Yeah, love it. It's just such a great way to explain it, Dylan. What we're really trying to do, guys, is stack the deck so that when somebody asks who's the best blank practice area law firm in your
Yep.
market, we want ChatGPT to say it's you, right? Or at least include you on a short list. And we really are stacking the deck to make that happen, right? So let's talk in a little bit more detail about how it happens. Like I shared at the beginning, basically every couple of months, there is a new data set loaded into ChatGPT. They used to refer to it as training. Maybe they still do. So what's in that data set, right? It includes kind of the big public websites, government websites, right? .gov websites are given a lot of weight. Significant media websites, Wikipedia, right? Some of the big trusted websites are given sort of a lot of credibility, right? But it also pulls information from smaller sites, right? Our website, your competitor's website, all of that information is accessible to ChatGPT and likely included in their data set. It also, a lot of people don't realize this, it's not just limited to digital, like internet connected information. ChatGPT is trained on books, textbooks, academic papers, magazines. It does not have to be digital. ChatGPT is trained on offline resources as well. Forums are a big one. Reddit, Quora, others. forums where there are users that interact and ask questions and humans give answers. That stuff is weighted pretty heavily by ChatGPT. And then stuff like blog and video content, right? The blog on your website, the videos on your website, the videos on YouTube, all of that stuff gets indexed and included in the data that is fed into ChatGPT. Sometimes ChatGPT will also crawl the live internet. Other times it might rely only on the trained data set. And you can kind of see this happening. Like if you ask a question, about current events, sometimes depending on your version of ChatGPT, it will like literally tell you that it's searching the internet. It'll take a little while to give you an answer. Other times, if you ask a question about like the ancient Egyptians, right, it's just going to spit that answer out pretty quickly because it doesn't really need to crawl the live internet. So you got all this information being poured into ChatGPT. So then the question is, well, how does it rank and make sense and sort of formulate, basically synthesize all of that information into an answer? And it uses what's called trust signals in order to rank the information that is programmed into it. Now, of course, there's an exact algorithm. I don't know what it is. Nobody outside of OpenAI knows the exact percentages, but we do have a good idea both from our own testing and, as Dylan mentioned, we are part of multiple marketing communities, groups of people that are all seeking to really understand how this stuff is working. And so we're bringing to you kind of the best of what we're learning. And so people refer to this as trust signals. And there's several here, and I'm going to go through them kind of quickly. But number one is making sure you have accurate, consistent contact information for your business everywhere it appears. This sounds basic. It's actually really, really important. And more law firms than you would think kind of fail this test. Your law firm name needs to be listed exactly the same on your Google My Business profile, on your Facebook page, on your LinkedIn profile, on your website. If you have an Avo profile, you want your law firm name to appear exactly the same everywhere. And that same goes for your phone number, same goes for your address. That's tricky if you moved or you updated your phone number. You really want that information to be consistent. Otherwise, ChatGPT isn't sure if there's one business or two businesses or four businesses, and it's not, it creates confusion and it is less likely to trust and recommend your business. One of the
Yeah.
questions we always get, go ahead, Dylan.
I was just gonna know this, like it is pretty much something, this is something that it has to be an intentional effort. And one of the places a lot of our clients have missed out, and it's kind of ironic because a few months ago this happened to me even with ourselves, where this was Gemini, not ChatGPT, but it gave an address that was a couple addresses ago for us. And I was like, man, there's no way that's out there. So if you want to do a quick test of this, search on all the AI platforms you can, search them a few times, have a handful of people in your office search them, and see if it pops up any old addresses or phone numbers you may have. And then follow the links because they do source. There's typically a link that'll tell you. And so what I did when that happened, when it gave us an old address, I clicked the link and it took me to a MapQuest listing that hadn't been touched in years that like we didn't even realize was still there. There are going to be some cases where you don't even know that it's still out there because someone else did that for you. Someone else posted that address. It can be sometimes there are these like aggregation directories that these things are on. And Karen, it doesn't have to be the exact same like styling or anything like that. We do recommend consistent logo, but that's a separate marketing thing. It doesn't have to be the same exact text as long as it does say the same number, the same address. But do a quick sweep of the first 3 to 5 pages of Google after you're done with the AI test, just to see if there are directories you didn't even know about that you're
Yeah.
on. Because we have a client in Texas that she struggled with that. There were several directories she had never even heard of
Yeah.
that had other like outdated information on it.
And like this is not like a fun or sexy project, but
Yeah.
and so you as the attorney, this probably isn't necessarily how you should spend your time, but maybe you have someone on your team, or maybe you can, hire a nephew, right? Somebody spend a couple of hours and just search the internet for anywhere and everywhere that your business information appears and make sure it's consistent, and places where it's not, either update it yourself if you have control of it, or go through whatever process of contacting Avo or contacting Yelp, to get that information updated because it is
Yeah.
really important. And Karen, Dylan already kind of hit on
Yeah.
it, but your logo you want it to be consistent from like a brand consistency perspective. But in terms of what ChatGPT is looking for at this point, to my understanding, it's not considering a logo.
Yeah, and I'll just note real quick, your marketing firm also could be a good source of this because your marketing firm should care about that. They should care that you have consistent information out there. So if you're currently working with a marketing firm, reach out to them and say, hey, do you guys mind doing a quick NAP sweep for us or how NAP audit, however you want to phrase it. And if they're not willing to do it, fire them and come to us because we do this with our clients. We'll take a little sweep of, the first few pages and just make sure that everything looks good and point out. Sometimes we're not able to fix something for you. Like sometimes they need someone that actually works at the firm to contact them to change the information, but we can at least point it out.
Awesome. So number two, ChatGPT is looking for content on your site, and ideally it's original content, and ideally it is written in FAQ style, right? Frequently asked question style. What that means is you're writing a blog entry that is answering a question that your clients have, right? My husband just filed for divorce. What do I do next? How do I create a will in North Carolina? You want to format your content to answer the specific questions that your clients are asking. I'm going to kind of go through a few bullet points here, and then we are going to share some examples. One, you want to be authoritative, okay? You want to don't hesitate to state things factually. Don't hesitate to even take strong opinions. You want to be bringing your point of view to the conversation. You also want to be clear and concise. This isn't SEO where you need to write 750 words and you need to use certain keywords 4% of the time. Answer the questions the way a human would consume the information, right? You're writing for humans, not for search engines. There's an acronym BLUF, bottom line up front. Start your content by answering the question like in executive summary format, right? Give the short answer. That's probably what ChatGPT is going to use. And then go ahead and write the full article. As I touched on, unique points of view are rewarded, right? If you have some controversial or just some slightly different takes than most law firms in your area, share those points of view. Because remember, ChatGPT is looking for randomness. It's looking for opportunities to include other points of view. So if you have unique points of view, share them. All right. This is a big one. Talk about costs and pricing. One of the biggest questions people go to ChatGPT and ask as it relates to legal is how much does it cost to get divorced in Texas, North Carolina? How much does it cost to create a will? A lot of law firms shy away from that. I get it. You don't want to put that information out there. In today's world, this is what people are asking, and the firms that answer that question are going to have an advantage. This is something I saw a few weeks ago. It's a screenshot. Somebody searched for HVAC repair in Seattle. There's a button down at the bottom. I had never seen this before that says have AI get prices. Where is it going to get that information? From your website. If you don't have that information on your website, when Google starts doing this for law firms, you're not going to be listed. Okay. You need to have information about pricing on your website. You can give a range. You can say, hey, in North Carolina, a divorce could range from $3,000 if you are a young couple with no assets and you're on good terms and it's a friendly divorce, all the way to $50,000 plus if this is complicated and it's going to involve litigation and there's multiple assets and all of this, right? So answer the question, how much is this going to cost? Okay. As we shared at the beginning, you need to clearly identify your ideal clients. Everything you create on your website, your content, your video, your blogs should all be through the filter of speaking to the types of clients you want to attract to your law firm. Dylan, do you have anything you want to add there?
I was just going to note, really on the fresh content part of this. We noticed recently, and this is, I guess, partially an SEO thing, but it obviously impacts ChatGPT, that Google has started kind of zeroing out a lot of older content. So we had some clients who have, hundreds and hundreds of blog posts on their website from a few years ago and that aren't working for them. What I would recommend is if you have old content that worked really well with you, or for you, and really resonated with your audience, just refresh it. It can be as simple as whether you put it through ChatGPT and have it kind of rewrite it a little bit, or just spruce it up yourself. Don't hesitate like to just go ahead and repost that older content, and have a new date on it, and then just put a little bit of extra spin on it. Because that's kind of a nice little cheat for fresh content. If you're like, I have old content that worked great, cool, like just put a new date on it essentially, and you're gonna get rewarded for fresh content again.
Love it. So a few other things to consider. Positive reviews matter, right? Positive reviews have always mattered, but now they also matter for AI, right? So you should always be looking for opportunities to get reviews from happy clients. Third-party links and citations matter, right? Getting, if you can be mentioned in your local media sources, right? Local blogs, newspapers, radio stations, that's great. Industry awards matter. Whether that's a Law Firm 500 award or a Super Lawyers award or an AVO recognition, right? Anything that builds credibility for a human audience is also going to typically help your credibility from an AI search perspective. And then there are some technical website things too, right? A lot of these are kind of standard. Matter for SEO as well, but like things like an SSL certificate, having your data structured properly. We use something called a schema markup, which is basically a fancy way of saying we help AI search platforms understand how your website is organized and what the information like is relevant to. And then also things like your site load time are really important, right? So bird's eye view, this is fundamentally how you send a message to ChatGPT that you are a credible business, that you know what you're talking about, that you are clear on the types of clients that you want to work with, and therefore that ChatGPT should recommend to your law firm. To give you guys just a couple quick visuals, this is Tyler Dahl's website. This is the example we shared with you earlier. You'll notice several places on this homepage, Dylan and his team went out of their way to just make it clear, the headline, it's a little bit small. You've built blood, sweat, and tears into your family and your business. It's time to protect it. And then we've got a free resource, the Business Owner's Guide to Death and Taxes. And then there's a headline towards the bottom. We're not just a law firm, we're your trusted advisor for your business and your family from beginning to end. It's very clear who this is built for, okay? And then because fresh content matters, we also consistently create blog content. And like I shared it a minute ago, the first thing you'll see here is that we're formatting this stuff as a question. When should you name a trust as an IRA or 401k beneficiary, right? Question mark. And then you see an article summary with just a couple of quick bullet points. And then we've got the full answer, right? And again, it's written to answer the question, not be longer than it needs to be, not be shorter than it needs to be. It's answering the question clearly and concisely in a way that a human would find helpful. Karen, back to the blogs, blog post. So you're saying, should blog posts now have a section that is SEO formatted and and an FAQ section? I don't necessarily think that needs to be the case. Most of the time, Karen, content that is well formatted for AI search is generally also going to be helpful for SEO. There definitely are some nuanced differences. There are some blogs. I don't know, Dylan, if you want to speak to this a little bit. If the sole objective is of writing a blog is for SEO purposes, we will do some things a little bit differently. But the vast majority of the time, and the good news is Google is trending this way anyways, if you write your content to make sense for humans, it's going to be good from an AI search perspective and probably also from an SEO perspective.
Yeah. I think you can, like, there is a lot of crossover, which we've talked about and we'll get to more. If you're looking to create content, like you're like, I really want to get some SEO content out there, I would recommend doing that separately. It can be like, hey, I'm going to have 2 blogs this month instead of just one kind of thing. But when you have, say you have an SEO blog and a GEO blog, those are still going to cross over and help each other in your content. You're not going to be punished for one or the other. But there are some differences sometimes that you might want to separate. But again, there's going to be so much crossover between
Yeah.
those that you're still going to get value on both sides.
And Emma, your question, should the blog title always be a question? We are suggesting that as a best practice. Like, yes, phrase the blog title as a question. And really, this is how I would think about what you should even be blogging about. Make a list of what are the top 10 questions that your clients are asking. Each one of those then becomes a great topic for a blog or for a video or for a social media post. So great questions. Keep them coming. I hope this is helpful, just kind of visually. I also want to tell you guys, we obviously, everything I'm sharing here, you can do on your own. You really can. But this is what we do all day, every day. We specifically are really trying to help people get on this AI search visibility train. And so we've actually created something called the AI Starter Bundle. It is 5 blog entries. 4 of them are structured as an FAQ, just like I showed you a second ago. And then one of them is answering the question, how much does this cost, right? These are the questions that people are asking ChatGPT in your market. We want to create content on your website answering those questions, right? We then also send a videographer to your office and we film 8 FAQ videos. Same idea, might even be the same questions as we're addressing in the blog. It's you talking to the camera, just answering the questions that your clients ask, right? We will actually recommend based on the data and what we know of your practice area, what questions you should be answering. It also includes, like Dylan mentioned, a social audit and an NAP audit. We're going to make sure that your firm is represented consistently, spelling, phone numbers, all of those things, kind of everywhere it appears. We also put a review blitz into play. We will send out some emails and do some social media activity to try to help you get some additional positive reviews. And we're going to do a technical website audit. We're going to dig into things like load time and SSL certificate and schema markup and things like that to make sure that your website is optimized for AI search. This is a one-time fee of $32.50. We're happy to do this as just a one-time service. Or if you are interested in learning more about our monthly marketing program, we actually are offering this at a discounted rate for folks that move forward with one of our monthly services. So Mike, if you don't mind just dropping a link in the chat for those of you who are interested in learning a little bit more, we'd be happy to have a one-on-one conversation. Just have a conversation about whether this makes sense for you. Karen, for existing clients, does the audit happen regularly? Dylan, I'll pass that question to you,
Yeah.
because you're kind of more in the ops world.
Yeah, it's the answer is probably in a sense technically no, because once we've done an audit early on, once we've gone through and kind of checked things and wiped things out, you should essentially have a clean slate at that point. But if we ever feel like it's needed again, if we feel like we're not getting results, anytime we feel like we need to pivot and do something else to generate results, we can take a look at stuff like this. But normally, once you do it once, you won't have to do it super often unless something changes in the
Right. And if
algorithm
something
on
changes,
ChatGPT.
if there is a
Yep.
significant change in the way these things are functioning, and frankly, there are changes from time to time,
Yep.
that is absolutely something we're proactively jumping on for
Yeah, and
current
it's
clients.
not like you don't have to pay an extra charge for a follow-up audit kind of thing.
Yep.
Anytime there's a significant of change, like as Danny said, for us to actually have a reason to do it, we'll do it. And we're always also just aware, because we'll be, as you know, like we're on your social media pages, we're on your website, we're in Google, like searching your name and stuff like that. So it's happening in a more natural sense once we've done that first big one.
Yeah, love it. All right. So if you guys have questions about this, you want to have a conversation, click the link. We'd be glad to chat about it. Now, I want to tell you guys what is going on with paid ads. This is the big news. Everything we've talked about so far is really more about influencing organic recommendations, which is super important. But as of Monday, there are now paid ads running on ChatGPT. I'm actually going to try to play a quick video here that OpenAI produced that is really going to show you visually what ads look like. So let's see if this plays. So somebody types in ideas for my work potluck. Need to bring an entree that's easy to make. And now ChatGPT does its thing. Multiple recipe recommendations. And then at the bottom, there is an ad. You click the ad, takes you to the grocery store, right? I'm going to play that one more time just because I want everybody to sort of kind of understand this. Kind of understand this. All right. So this is a really big deal, guys, as I'm sure you all can understand, right? If there are people in your market that are asking ChatGPT for recommendations about a business contract or an estate plan or getting divorced, it would be pretty valuable to have an ad for your firm show up, right? So hopefully this is something everybody's paying attention to. I want to share some kind of important information here. First thing to understand is that right now these ads are only being displayed to free users and Go tier users. It's not being displayed to folks that are on the higher tier plans. I will tell you probably 95% of ChatGPT users are either on the free or Go tiers. So the vast majority of people are potentially seeing ads. But here's what really matters for right now. They are testing this product with a small handful of very high spending brands. I believe the minimum ad commitment to get started right now was like $200,000, and it wasn't even available. Like they actually handpicked the first handful of brands that they're working with. So this is not something that is available to law firms as of today. There is no self-serve tool, right? And that's the thing about Google Ads, Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads. There's a self-serve tool where you or we do this on behalf of dozens and dozens and dozens of clients all across the country, actually go in and build out ad campaigns. That doesn't exist yet. Okay. It's going to come soon, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But this is another really important point. According to everything OpenAI has said, ads are not going to influence answers or recommendations. It's a separation of church and state, right? The according to them, and really it's in their best interest to maintain this. You can't pay money to have your recommendation favored by ChatGPT's like organic response. You can pay money to have your ad show up after the answer, but you cannot influence their answer by spending money, right? But that said, ads are delivered in context, as they showed here. This user asked a question about recipes and therefore triggered a grocery store ad. Here's the thing. Nobody knows this for sure, but internally, we expect that self-serve ads are going to be available this year. I would personally guess it will be the second half of this year. It may be 2027. What ChatGPT is telling us is that right now they're testing. So maybe things won't go as well as they think. Maybe it will take longer to build out a self-serve tool, but I think it's highly likely that in 2026, law firms are going to have the ability to run ads on ChatGPT. Dylan, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, it's funny because you can have a conversation with ChatGPT about this just to kind of get more information. It's also funny because it'll tell you it's searching the web rather than just giving you the information it has on this. But one of the things it mentioned is because of the way these are structured, they're considered outside of the response stream for ChatGPT, meaning the information that is being entered into it is, first of all, not in the back end. It's not in the response stream on the back end where it's not influencing the answers. But it's also going to be, as you saw in the ad, it sticks at the bottom. If you think about some ads out there, there are like you think about you're on Facebook. Some ads sit in the separate sponsored section, but also those ones will just come up in your stream. You'll be thumbing through Facebook or scrolling through it on your desktop, and you'll see something come up and not even notice it's an ad because they've done a good job of embedding it. ChatGPT right now doesn't have that. The plan is for it to be outside of that stream where it just sits at the bottom kind of thing. So they still are saying what's in the response is still more valuable, is still more important because that you can influence easily, like more easily, I should say. And then it's also just not going to be separated because a lot of people are just going to get used to ignoring that section. I think a lot of us have tuned out the parts of the web pages we visit often that have ads. So definitely, like it's important to make sure you're still getting on that more organic side of this for sure.
All right, so this is something we're watching extremely closely. If you have questions about paid ads specifically, we're happy to answer them now. Or Mike, if you don't mind, again, drop that link in the chat. If you want to book a call, we're happy to talk about kind of your overall AI search visibility. We can let you know kind of what we're planning from a paid ad perspective. I will tell you, we're not offering ads as a service until we have the ability to do that, and we're probably at least a few months from there. But we will be on this train as soon as possible. I can't wait to run ads for our agency because I'm really curious kind of what it's going to look like. And I will tell you, historically speaking, the early months and years of a new platform running ads tend to be pretty lucrative. The early days of Google Ads were great. The early days of Facebook ads were great. All right, I want to keep moving and hopefully have a little bit of time for a couple of questions. But kind of one of the number one questions we get, and so I want to address this kind of briefly, is how is AI search or GEO different than SEO? And we feel that there's about 70% overlap and about 30% sort of key differences. And I want to share something. This is a client of ours. The search term on Google, right? This is a Google search. Search for personal injury law firm Boulder, Colorado. We have been doing SEO for them. It's Debbie Tossig Law. They are ranked in the map pack for that competitive search phrase. That's awesome. That was Google traditional search. Then we, just for comparison's sake, and this was probably 6 months ago now, we went and asked ChatGPT, can you recommend a good PI law firm in Boulder, Colorado? And our client, Debbie Tossig, was the first answer, right? So just sort of from this, and we've compared a few other data points too, but you can generally tell if you are ranking well on Google, it's often going to carry over to AI search, right? But there are some key differences as well. And so we're going to kind of break that down. We'll start with similarities. Things that matter in SEO and GEO are positive reviews, backlinks, and reviews from third-party sources. Fresh content matters. The way you format that content is different, but fresh content really matters. Technical optimization really matters. Awards, certifications, badges really matter, right? All this stuff is great for SEO. It's also great for AI search, but then there are some key differences. The content formatting and the way you approach it, like I covered earlier, is different. We highly recommend you format your blog content and your video content FAQ style. Answer the questions that your clients are asking. Second is really you have the opportunity to be clear about the types of clients you want to attract. Many of you at the beginning of this webinar said that you are picky about the types of clients you want to attract, and you have a very specific client avatar. I'm telling you, AI search is a much more promising marketing channel for quality specific leads than Google. Okay. It also gives you additional space for differentiation. You saw some of the examples earlier, how ChatGPT kind of gives these elaborate background information and reasons why somebody should consider working with that law firm, as opposed to Google, where it's just kind of a blue link. Okay. So ChatGPT gives you the answer, gives you the opportunity to differentiate your firm further. And of course, the idea of discussing your costs and pricing is really important. It's going to matter for AI search. It hasn't mattered for SEO in the past. So at a bird's eye view, those are some of the key differences. If you have specific questions, happy to answer them. Again, as I shared at the beginning, if this is something you want to jump into now, and kind of get ahead of the pack, we do have the AI starter bundle. Mike, please do drop the booking link just one more time so anybody who's interested can book with us. And that said, we've got, a little bit of time here. Happy to stick around, answer any questions if you have them. Dylan, while people are thinking about their questions, I'll turn it over to you for any final thoughts on your end.
Yeah, no, I'm glad. I will say we've had this conversation in this webinar a few times, and Karen, I really appreciate your kind of honesty about all this, because I get it. This is definitely overwhelming. It's scary as a consumer, as a human out in the world. We've all seen the movies about how this can go. But at the end of the day, it is here. It does exist, and I would rather the people that I'm working with, the people that I enjoy spending time with on a day-to-day, are profiting off of this, are getting something out of it. So I really appreciate the honesty, but I want to make sure that we're doing what we can. We've gone over a lot of these trust signals. Excuse me. It can feel like a lot, but it's also not that significant of a change. I honestly, and I'm glad we have this page back up because this is perfect timing. The way that we talk to ChatGPT, the way we talk to these language models, I like it a lot more than the way we were talking to Google. Talking to Google, we've talked about this for years as an agency. You feel like you're writing to a robot. You have to say, like, Charlotte, North Carolina family law attorney instead of more casual conversational writing. So as a writer, I love that. I love being able to have more of a conversation with my audience rather than treating it like it's a robot and talking to, a robot that has the mind of a child, essentially. So I do think at the end of the day, this is going to, especially for law firms, be critical because you don't want to put some really cheap looking content on your website just to get clicks. You want to have conversational stuff. You know how it is as a lawyer. People love to have that one-on-one conversation with their lawyer. So I'm really excited about the way that this is going to change the content lawyers are able to put out.
Yeah, ultimately it's creating a better user experience. And that is
Yep.
the great thing, to Dylan's point, of the everything you would do to advertise and market yourself to AI search platforms tracks with what you would do to market and advertise yourself to humans. Okay. Which maybe sounds obvious, but that's not how search engines worked, right? To Dylan's point, you had to write robotic, boring, keyword stuffed content. And no human wanted to read that. So, in my view, this is really a step forward. I think ultimately it's forcing businesses to advertise in ways that is actually helpful to humans, which is great. So, listen, it's 2:01. Thank you guys for being here. Some great questions, some great conversation. I hope this was helpful. Several of you have been to webinars of ours in the past. We like to do these. We'll probably be doing another one in just a couple of weeks. Feel free. We send plenty of emails to you. Feel free to just hit reply on one of those emails and let us know if you have any specific questions that you want us to cover. We're always open to suggestions on these webinars. We'll talk about, whether it's AI search or marketing in general or other questions related to law firm marketing and sales. We're doing these for you at the end of the day, and we want to make them helpful. So thanks for being here. Dylan, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and participating. And with that, we will wrap this up and hope to see you guys in a couple weeks when we do it again.